Oh my God, inspections, appraisals, all sorts of things that I'm not really sure what the differences are. Let's talk about them real quick. So, there is a difference between an inspection and an appraisal inspection. It's who they work for. Okay. So, if you're the buyer and you are buying a home, you're going to order a home inspection for your own purposes. You're going to call the inspector. You're going to pay them at the time of the service. They're going to give you a 75-page report that tells you every loose doorknob and missing piece of caulk throughout the property, as well as any significant repairs. They're going to tell you to have the HVAC service. And they're going to tell you to clean out the duct vent, the dryer duct, all sorts of little things like that, right? The home inspection is there for you, the buyer. So as the buyer, you order the home inspection and the report is given to you, the buyer. Believe it or not, it's not even given to me, the agent. It's given to you. You paid for it. It's your product. Okay. And in it, it has everything that could possibly be wrong with the house. Got it. All right. How is that different from an appraisal inspection? That you have an appraiser who works for the bank. So the home inspector works for the buyer. The appraiser works for the bank. So if you get a loan, so when you order a loan, when you apply for a loan, the bank is going to order an appraiser who's going to go in and determine the fair market value for the property and make sure that that property, that collateral for the loan, is in good shape for the lender. So you got to remember, from the bank's point of view, they don't know you, they don't know me, they don't know any of us. As far as they're concerned, you're a deadbeat and you're planning to walk out on your loan and cost them money. And if that happens, they have to turn around, seize the property, they foreclose, and then they sell it on the open market, and they know they're going to lose money, right? They know that. So they're going to have to sell it for something less. And so for that reason, foreclosures just don't sell for as much money as an open market, right? It's just the way it's done. And you're going to find that the appraiser wants to make sure that he says, hey, this house is worth $500,000. So the bank says, okay, if it's worth $500,000, we're going to lend you $450,000, right? And that way, if you walk away on this, we've only got $450,000 on it. We can sell it for $450,000 and we're good. All right. We didn't lose too much money. Closing costs be damned. We're going to be pretty good. Well, that appraiser is also going to make sure that that home, which is the collateral we just talked about, is good enough to be used as collateral. So conventional loan, they just want to make sure that it's inhabitable, that you can actually live in the home. In a VA, a government-backed loan, like a VA or an FHA, they're also going to be adding in some extra requirements to protect the veteran in the case of a VA. And that's some things that you may have heard before. They're going to make sure that the roof is good. There's no water intrusion, that electrical safety is good. They're going to make sure that the railings above 36 inches, 30 inches, whatever it is, are there, that there's no more than 3 steps without a railing. All these different little VA caveats that aren't there on a conventional loan, because they're there not only to protect the veteran, but to protect the bank, because guess what? In a VA loan, the government is putting down the 25% to back up the bank. So if the bank forecloses, the government just writes a check. So there is not only protecting the bank, but also protecting the government. And they want to make sure that that collateral is not endangered. And when you think about that, what you really want to think about is there a possibility that the collateral could be damaged? So if you have a bad roof and water gets in, water is going to damage the collateral. That's bad. If there's electrical safety, you could create a fire. That fire could burn down the building. That damages the collateral. Plumbing leaks. You get sued for injuries. Anything like that is damaging the collateral and puts them at risk. And so they don't like that. For that reason, VA appraisers are going to add in additional, typically safety and water intrusion type requirements. Now, usually if it's a average home, there's usually nothing required. I've seen it before where they say, hey, that dryer duct is damaged. You're like, really? Okay, well, fix that. $20. All right, got it. Fixed. It's done. Really odd. Usually it's something along the lines of that roof is bad. It's end of life. Not good enough. Not going to pass. You need a new roof before the VA will approve the loan. That happens sometimes. Now, that is different from a home inspection. Again, we're talking about the VA appraisal required repairs working for the bank and the government, different from the home inspection working for the buyer. So the home inspector might say, you need a new roof. And the VA appraiser says, you need a new roof. Well, guess what? That loan's not getting done if there's no roof. On the other hand, home inspector says, hey, you need a new roof. It looks end of life. And the VA appraiser says, hey, it's good enough. Well, guess what? You don't have to have a roof to go to closing. You might want one and you might still negotiate it, but you don't have to do it. So again, inspection works for the buyer, appraiser works for the bank, or in some cases, the government. Another type of inspection you're going to see, which is not a contingency, is a moisture termite inspection around here. And most loans are going to require that you do a moisture termite inspection. You don't have to do a moisture termite if you don't want to for a cash buy or seller financing or something like that. You don't even have to do it. Most conventional VA and FHA loans will require it in our area. What is a moisture termite inspection? We call in a pest company, believe it or not. So you might call in some local termite company. They're going to go into the crawl space and check around the property, and they're looking for water damage. They're looking for mold and mildew. They're looking for termite tubes, wood destroying insects of any other type. And they're going to say, okay, how's the plastic barrier down there? And if everything looks good, they're going to say, hey, it's great. It's not uncommon that they're going to crawl out and say, well, you got some problems here. We got some moisture damage over here in these joists. These are cracked. They're way too brittle over here. And the moisture barrier in that half of the room is that half of the crawl space is bad. So here's what you have. We got all these things. And in order to get a clear moisture letter, you're going to have to do these repairs. And I'll even give you an estimate. It's $1,200. We'll do the work. And some people feel that's a conflict of interest. I will tell you that usually the price they give is better than I will get from a typical contractor. The folks that I use, I know give us good prices. I know they're fair prices. And when I do it, I buy and sell my own properties. When they tell me what it is, I give them so much business. I know they're being true and they're being honest because I can go in crawl spaces with them sometimes. We look at it and go, yeah, I see that that's true. We just knock that thing out. Now, moisture termite inspection, you want to get that done. And if everything is in order, they're going to give you what's called a clear moisture termite letter or clear moisture letter. And that's great. Again, needed for some loans, not required at all for cash or seller financing or something else like that. All right. Another inspection you might have is an EIFS, exterior insulation finishing system, or essentially synthetic stucco. There are several different types of that, and depending on which variation you have, some of them are better than others. And when you buy a house that has this synthetic stucco, you absolutely want to get this inspection done, because if it turns out everything's great, that's awesome. But if there's a problem, it can be expensive. So we want to make sure we know before buying a house or selling a house if we have a problem with our synthetic stucco. Another one you might have is if you have a pool or a hot tub. We're going to call in a pool company and do a specialty inspection. They're going to just check out all the equipment and make sure that everything is looking good. And they're going to give us a little hit list and say, hey, here's the problems. Again, this is a home inspection. The buyer is going to order it. Buyer's going to pay for it. And then whatever they come back with doesn't blow up a deal. It's just a opportunity for further negotiations. So home inspection, pool inspection, hot tub, EIFS, a chimney inspection, a great idea if you have a wood burning stove or even a wood burning fireplace, or even a converted one. So you have a wood burning fireplace converted into a gas. Hey, you probably still want to have that inspected. Speaking of gas, you can have your gas logs inspected by a gas company. And there's all sorts of companies that are willing to do all this. And each one of those inspections, anywhere from $200 to $500, depending on the size of the house and what's going on. So it adds up extremely quickly. Unfortunately, it's typically ordered by the buyer. And all it is here's what's possibly wrong with the house. Full disclosure before you buy it. Now, you may feel like you deserve top of the line product. Everything should work perfectly. And if that's how you feel, that's great. Perhaps we should only look at new construction. Okay. If you're looking at a house that's anything more than 5 years old, shoot, even a 5-year-old house is going to have issues. And you get into a typical home around here. Some of these are built in the 1940s and earlier. They're not even straight. They're crooked and all sorts of things. If you want something that's perfect, do not buy a house that has been built before 2020. Okay. And even then, I got a great story about a client of mine who bought a new construction, and within a week they had a sewer backup in the first floor. Holy cow, new construction. And the builder messed it up, and now granted, they got new carpeting out of it. They got a whole bunch of stuff fixed by the builder, but still things happen. So, all right. So that's about all I had on my list. So we talked about the difference between inspections ordered by the buyer and the appraisal ordered by the bank and sometimes the government. So different things there, and they are different. I know this was a long video, lots of important stuff here. You may need to listen to it again, or perhaps just have a conversation with me. We can go over it. Also, there's a blog on my website as well. Thank you.